In a small village, there lived a man named Tunde. He was poor but very proud. He lived with his kind-hearted wife Morayo in a small hut. Morayo was a good woman who always tried to make their home happy even though they didn't have much. One day, Morayo went to her village and brought back a young maid named Titi to help her with the housework. Titi was hardworking and she quickly became part of the family. At first, everything seemed fine, but Tunde, instead of appreciating his wife's kindness, started spending more time with Titi. Morayo noticed this but said nothing, hoping it was just her imagination. However, not long after, Titi became pregnant and the truth came out. Tunde admitted, "I got Titi pregnant and I want to marry her." Morayo was heartbroken, but she had no choice but to agree. She didn't want to leave her children without their father. So Tunde married Titi, and now the small hut had two wives. At first, Titi pretended to be respectful, but soon she began to make life difficult for Morayo. She would complain about everything Morayo did and often try to take over the house. Time passed and both women had children. Morayo had 5 children and so did Titi. But Tunde treated Titi's children much better than Morayo's. Titi's children went to school, wore good clothes, and ate well, while Morayo's children had to fend for themselves. They didn't go to school and only ate whatever they could find. Titi became more powerful in the house. One day, she convinced Tunde to chase Morayo away. "She doesn't belong here anymore," Titi said. "This house is too small for both of us." Tunde, blinded by his pride and Titi's influence, told Morayo to leave. Heartbroken, Morayo moved to a small hut nearby so her children could still visit her. She worked hard to take care of them, but it wasn't easy. Morayo's children grew up hungry and sad. They saw their father's love for Titi's children and wondered why he didn't care for them. They worked hard to help their mother, doing odd jobs and selling small items to survive. Years passed. Titi and Tunde decided they didn't want more children. "We already have enough," Titi said one evening. But soon, Titi discovered she was pregnant again. She was angry and worried. "I don't want this baby," she told Tunde. Tunde agreed and together they decided to get rid of the baby. Titi used a herbal concoction from a local woman to end the pregnancy, but she didn't know the baby in her womb had already grown bigger than she thought. That night, Titi felt sharp pains in her stomach. She cried out, but it was too late. The concoction was too strong and it claimed her life. The night Titi passed away, chaos erupted in the household. Tunde, shocked and panicked, called for help, but it was too late. The concussion had done its damage, and both Titi and the unborn child were gone. The news of Titi's death spread like wildfire. The people whispered about Tunde's pride and greed. "This is what happens when a man forgets his roots," the elder said. Now, a widower with 5 children to care for, Tunde was overwhelmed. Titi's children, who had always been pampered, were now left without their mother. They cried constantly, demanding the care they once had. Tunde turned to Morayo, the woman he had wronged so deeply. "Please, come back and help me with the children," he begged. But Morayo, who had suffered years of neglect and cruelty, refused. You drove me away when I needed you most. Now you want me to fix your mess, she said, her voice filled with pain. Without Titi to control things, Tunde's life began to fall apart. He couldn't afford to send Titi's children to school anymore, and they soon joined Morayo's children scavenging for food and doing odd jobs to survive. As the years passed, Tunde's health began to fail. He became weak and frail, a shadow of the proud man he once was. His children, angry at how he had treated them, kept their distance. Even Titi's children who once adored him began to resent him for their mother's death. One fateful evening, Tunde sat alone in his crumbling hut, hungry and cold. He thought about the choices he had made, the pride that had destroyed his family, the greed that has ruined his life. But it was too late to make things right. The next morning, villagers found Tunde lifeless in his hut, his body frail and his face marked with regret. No one mourned him, not even his children. His death was a quiet one, and his story became a lesson for the villagers, a warning about pride, greed, and the importance of treating others with kindness. Morayo, though still struggling, raised her children with strength and love. Despite everything, her children grew up hardworking and determined, learning from their mother's resilience and their father's mistakes.